You won't believe what really happened to Ananda Lewis. Once the shining face of MTV, the it girl of the hip hop generation, a powerful voice for youth, and a woman who interviewed celebrities like Britney Spears, Destiny's Child, and even Hillary Clinton. She is no more. At just 52, Ananda Lewis has passed away. But her story is more than just sad. It's shocking, painful, and full of decisions that still raise questions. Let me tell you, this is where it gets interesting. Ananda's journey started in Los Angeles in 1973. Her parents divorced when she was just 2 years old. After that, Ananda and her sister Lakshmi moved to San Diego with their mother and grandmother. But growing up wasn't easy. Her mother was broken from the divorce and worked hard to support her children. Still, Ananda felt ignored, unloved. She once said that by the time she was 10, she had become rebellious, angry, and full of resentment toward her mother. Their relationship was rough. They fought a lot, and for a long time, they stayed distant. But something changed later, and we'll come to that. She went to a performing arts high school where she acted in plays and did a lot of volunteer work. People around her started noticing her talent. She was smart, sharp, and had a natural presence in front of the camera. After graduating from Howard University in 1995, she got her first big break, hosting BET's Teen Summit. That show changed her life. It put her in front of the right people, and soon MTV came calling. In 1997, Ananda joined MTV as a VJ. Back then, being a VJ meant everything. They were the voices and faces of a generation. And Ananda, she wasn't just another pretty host. She was quick, thoughtful, bold. MTV gave her space to be real. She hosted Hot Zone and Total Request Live, which became cultural hits. Teenagers saw her as more than a host. She was someone who got them. But here's the shocking part. Even at the height of her fame, she wasn't satisfied. While others dreamed of fame and fortune, Ananda wanted something deeper. She left MTV in 2001 to host her own daytime talk show, The Ananda Lewis Show. It launched on September 10th, 2001, just one day before the world changed forever with the 9/11 attacks. The timing was heartbreaking, and the show didn't last more than a season. Ananda later admitted that she wasn't ready for that kind of spotlight. She felt like the show wasn't what she had signed up for. She had rushed into it. That decision to leave MTV for a talk show seemed bold at the time, but it didn't give her the success she hoped for. Still, she didn't stop. She tried new things, became a host on The Insider, appeared on reality shows, and even took on roles as a carpenter and a contractor. She was always reinventing herself, always searching for purpose. What makes this story different? Despite the fame, the red carpets, and being named one of People magazine's 50 most beautiful people in the world, even Prince once called her Cleopatra, Ananda stayed grounded. She stayed away from Hollywood drama, kept her personal life quiet, and focused on raising her son, Langston, whom she had with Harry Smith, Will Smith's brother. Her life seemed peaceful, but behind that peace, something serious was going on. And this is where things took a dark, unexpected turn. In 2020, Ananda made a quiet but heartbreaking reveal. Through an emotional Instagram post, she told the world she had been battling stage 3 breast cancer and had been hiding it for over a year. The news came as a shock to her fans, who hadn't seen her on screen much lately and had no idea what she was going through. But the real twist wasn't just that she had cancer, it was how she chose to deal with it. And this is where it gets interesting. Ananda admitted that she had avoided getting regular mammograms for years. She didn't trust them. She believed the radiation from those tests could harm her more than help her. So even though she had access to top doctors, even though she knew the importance of early detection, she stayed away from hospitals and tests. She trusted her body, she said. She believed in natural healing. When she found out she had cancer, she made a decision, a controversial one. She didn't want chemotherapy, she didn't want surgery, and she especially didn't want a double mastectomy, even though doctors strongly advised it. She believed she could heal through detoxing her body and using alternative treatments. She said, "I felt like my body is intelligent. I know that to be true." Instead of removing the tumor, she tried to work it out of her system naturally. She didn't trust modern medicine, and she didn't want to suffer through what she saw as painful and unnecessary treatments. But here's the shocking part. By the time she changed her mind, it was too late. The cancer had spread. What started as stage 3 had now become stage 4. The tumor had metastasized. That meant it had reached other parts of her body. She was now in a fight for her life, and this time, the rules had changed. In October 2024, she opened up about her choices in a CNN roundtable with her old college friend, journalist Stephanie Elam, and anchor Sarah Sidner. For the first time, Ananda fully admitted that she had made the wrong call. With raw honesty, she said, "I wish I could go back. It's important for me to admit where I went wrong with this." The craziest part, she wasn't trying to get sympathy. She wasn't blaming anyone. She owned her decision. She stood by it. But at the same time, she wanted others, especially women, to learn from her mistake. She urged women to stop skipping mammograms, to take charge of their health, and to not let fear take over their choices. In January, just a few months before her passing, she wrote an emotional essay for Essence magazine. She wrote, "Prevention is the real cure." She accepted that death is part of life. She said, "We come to this life, have experiences, and then we go. Being real about that with yourself changes how you choose to live." But here's where it gets painful. She knew her time was running out, and still, she found peace. She said she didn't want to suffer unnecessarily. She didn't want to live in pain just to add more years. She just wanted to look back and say, I did that exactly how I wanted to. Destiny had taken an unexpected turn, and now Ananda Lewis, the woman who once lit up every screen, was slowly fading from the public eye. Not because she wanted to, but because her body was losing the battle she had tried so hard to fight in her own way. After her diagnosis reached stage 4, Ananda Lewis began preparing herself, not just for the worst, but for peace. She wasn't afraid of dying, at least not in the way most people are. She had already made peace with the fact that life isn't forever. But what makes this story different is how she chose to spend her final years with honesty, clarity, and a deep sense of purpose. She stayed mostly out of the spotlight, focusing on her son, Langston. He was still a teenager, her only child, the center of her world. Every decision she made, every treatment she considered or rejected was with him in mind. But the pain wasn't just physical. The emotional weight of knowing she might not see her son grow up, graduate, fall in love, that was the part she never spoke about publicly. But those close to her could see it. It was written in her eyes, in the way she talked slower, softer, more intentionally. Even as her body weakened, Ananda stayed strong in her message. She had one mission now, to stop others from making the same mistake. She appeared in interviews, podcasts, even short videos, urging women, especially Black women, to get checked. "Don't be like me," she said in one of her last public appearances. "Please don't be like me. Don't wait." But here's the part that most people didn't know. Behind her soft voice and gentle words was a woman in constant pain. She had stopped many treatments, refused further chemo, and decided to let her body lead the way. It wasn't giving up. It was her way of staying in control. "I don't want to be kept alive by machines," she once told a friend. "I want to live, not just exist." And this is where it gets interesting. During all this, Ananda also reflected deeply on her past. She talked openly about her rocky childhood, her anger toward her mother, and how much that had shaped her. She once said, I had to unlearn the bitterness. It took years, but I finally chose to forgive." In a full circle moment, she and her mother had reconciled years ago. That healing gave her a different kind of peace near the end. Not every story gets that. She also looked back at her MTV days, not with regret, but with pride. She once called those years a beautiful chaos. She had witnessed music history up close, interviewed icons, partied with legends, and stood at the center of pop culture. But she also said something unusual for a celebrity. Fame is loud, peace is quiet. I needed the quiet. But here's the craziest part. In her final months, she watched as MTV News, the very platform that helped make her famous, shut down completely in 2023. She gave a statement that felt like a goodbye, not just to the network, but to her own chapter. MTV News was more than music, she said. It was where truth and culture met. That's what I wanted to be part of. And I was. As the months passed, she became more private. Fewer social media posts, fewer interviews. Friends say she was getting her affairs in order, quietly, peacefully. She didn't want the public to see her in pain. She didn't want to be remembered as a victim. She wanted people to remember the woman who made them feel seen on TV, who asked bold questions, who walked away from fame on her own terms. But destiny had its own plans, and sadly, her body couldn't hold on any longer. On June 11, 2025, the heartbreaking news was confirmed by her sister, Lakshmi, in a simple but powerful Facebook post. She's free and in his heavenly arms, she wrote, along with a black and white photo of Ananda and a string of broken heart emojis. Just like that, the world lost a voice that once shaped an entire generation. But here's the part that shook everyone. No major announcement, no public farewell, no flashing headlines. She slipped away quietly, just as she had lived in her final years. Fans flooded social media with tributes. People from the music industry, the television world, and everyday viewers who had grown up watching her on MTV all shared the same feeling. This didn't feel real. For many, Ananda Lewis wasn't just a TV host. She was their childhood. She was the calm, confident voice during live shows. She was the one who handled serious topics like school violence and racial injustice when no one else would. And she was the friend you didn't know personally, but always felt close to. But here's where it gets interesting. Even in her death, Ananda had one final lesson to leave behind. Her life wasn't perfect. She made choices, some of them bold, some of them controversial, some of them, in her own words, wrong. But she owned all of them. She didn't pretend. She didn't blame anyone. She said what most people are afraid to admit. I was scared, I made mistakes, and I wish I could go back. That kind of honesty is rare. And maybe that's why people respected her so much. She didn't just live in the spotlight, she challenged it. She walked away from it when it didn't feel right. She followed her heart, even when it led her down the harder road. The final days of Ananda's life weren't broadcast or dramatized. She spent them surrounded by family. Her teenage son Langston was by her side. That quiet strength, the choice to live and die on her own terms, that was her final act of bravery. And the craziest part, even now, weeks after her passing, people are still discovering parts of her story they never knew. Not just the MTV fame or the talk show or the headlines, but the heart, the struggle, the spiritual strength. She had flaws, she had fears, but she also had the courage to live a life she believed in, even when it cost her everything. Ananda once said, "When it's time for me to go, I want to be able to look back on my life and say, I did that exactly how I wanted to." And in the end, that's exactly what she did. She wasn't just a VJ. She wasn't just a talk show host. She was a storyteller, a fighter, a mother, a woman who dared to be real in a world full of masks. Her story, filled with fame, family pain, healing, and final redemption, will stay with us. Because stories like hers, they don't fade, they echo.